Ed Olczyk, tiebreaker. Ed Olczyk of NBC Sports Network.
Yeah, there you go.
Eddie, how you doing, man?
Hey, Sid, Tim, how are you, boys? Nice to be with you.
Nice
I love
to have
it.
you.
I love it. I mean, is that not the ultimate
I agree. Great
compliment
point.
there? Is that awesome or what?
Great point.
See?
McCallum hated
Great
every
minds
second of
think
it.
alike.
McCallum hated every second of it, Eddie. I'm with you 1,000%.
Right.
Great minds think alike.
I mentioned it was a physical weekend in the NHL, and given the suspension to Lucic, the Sabourin scary incident, and some folks in Vancouver were upset about Brendan Dillon's hit that we just showed there. Did any of those really bother you? Were you okay with them all? Like, there's something on the weekend where you were just like, that's not my game.
I mean, look, I mean, the one in Boston there, I mean,
Scary,
just where two guys come together and, unfortunately, one guy hits the deck, and obviously you saw David Backes. I mean, he was obviously visibly upset, and, he banged up himself as well. But, I mean, that's just one of those where it's a hockey play that goes bad, right? Like, that's what I saw on that. I mean, you see the reaction of David Backes, a class guy, and hopefully that young fella is going to be okay for the Senators. And, as far as the Lucic one, maybe two might have been a little bit excessive in my mind. I thought maybe one at the most. Just one of those situations where, look, Sherwood gets in there, he pitchforks the goalie, and Lucic comes in and pops him right in the mouth. Now, if he pops him in the chest or he punches him in the stomach, he probably doesn't get any games. But, Lucic is doing what most guys would do, is stick up for their goaltender. Unfortunately, got the glove up into the face and knocked the kid right down. Hopefully he's okay. But I probably would have gave him one game, but that would have been hard-pressed to go any farther than that.
I know it's a different era, but how many times did you get popped in the grill for going in?
A couple hundred. Yeah, a couple hundred. Yeah. just because I'm standing there and I looked easy to punch. So, I mean, what the hell? I got Everlast on my chest there. Just a punching bag. Just go ahead, whatever you want to do.
The Lucic play, and as Tim said, it's not the first time he stuck up for guys. Look, he's offensively, I don't think we're going to see the old Milan Lucic. I think it's becoming very clear. But how far can that go in a room, Eddie, do you think?
Well, with a guy that you would expect to do it, Sid, and I think that to me is where really it goes to another level, is when a guy that is supposed to be there and bring a little bit of everything, and that's what Lucic is able to do. I mean, he's won, he's been around a long time. He's been every type of player that you would want on a team, right? He's been a go-to guy. He's been a role player. He's been a guy that has struggled. He's had success. So I think guys can really relate to him because he's been around, and he's a guy that, again, just being around him from the broadcaster's point of view, especially with his days in Boston, I mean, he's an easy guy to gravitate to. And I think that when you look around the room, I don't care how long you've been in the league or if you're a young guy, you know which guys have your back. And when something happens, there's a pretty good chance that Lucic is going to be the first guy there. So I think it makes guys feel a little more comfortable, Sid. I think guys get a little bit taller, guys get a little bit braver when you have a guy that is there. And he certainly knows his role. And look, role players got to do two things, right? Accept and execute. And I think in that situation, he was sending a message and also sticking up for his goaltender.
Eddie, there was a lot of interesting Canadian storylines this week. Two specific. Elias Pettersson was just named first star of the week in the NHL. Right. And the other performance was Draisaitl and the Oilers Saturday afternoon in Pittsburgh. And you heard a lot. You've been hearing it for a while. How Draisaitl, first off, the $8.5 million a year now is looking like a pretty good contract. Yeah. And we're talking maybe one of the best players on earth. Who has impressed you more to start the year, Pettersson or Draisaitl?
Boy, oh boy. Probably seen Vancouver, to be honest with you. Probably seen Vancouver play a little bit more than Edmonton. It just kind of seems like when I'm working, it seems like the Oilers are playing. So I've only seen Edmonton a couple of times. I saw Edmonton in person. I'm going to see Vancouver this Thursday. They're actually going to be in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks, so I'll get a chance to see them for the first time in person. Two obviously elite players. Draisaitl's been around, a lot longer, and he just seems to becoming a power forward in the National Hockey League in every sense of the word. I mean, his nose is over the puck a lot. He seems like he's skating better than he did maybe a couple of years ago. I don't know what you guys think, but it just seems like his anticipation, he looks quicker. And the one thing that I've noticed, too, is that when he gets the puck on his stick, and for most guys in the National Hockey League, Tim and Sid, or at any level, is that more times than not, you have guys, when they get the puck on their stick, they slow down. I think of Sidney Crosby. I think of a guy like Jeff Carter in his heyday, Nathan MacKinnon. Those guys have the ability to play faster, skate faster when they have the puck on their stick. It's not like somebody like me when it became an anchor where you just slow down. It seems like Draisaitl, it almost seems to me is that when he gets that puck on his stick, he knows he's got to keep those legs churning. And, I mean, he's just having a flat-out awesome year. And, look, Pettersson is still finding his way throughout the National Hockey League. And he's a super impressive player. I like his vision. I like his ability to be able to, cause some separation and have some escapability. But, Draisaitl on the highlights and watching him play here in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, pretty damn impressive, that's for sure.
I'm glad you brought up Nathan MacKinnon and Eddie Olczyk joining us here on Tim and Sid, because there's a lot of talk on whether or not the Oilers can maintain with their stars doing so much. I thought last year's edition of the Avs was basically the same thing. One line driving everything, hope for some good goaltending, and maybe you can make a run.
Well, yeah, and they're banged up, as you guys know, right now. I mean, with Landeskog and Rantanen both out, so that puts obviously a lot of pressure on Nathan MacKinnon. But I guess the question that I have is can there, do they have enough guys there on the support, like the second line type of guys, right? I saw Colorado play a couple of weeks ago in Pittsburgh. Their second line was Kadri, Burakovsky, and Donskoy. So when healthy, is that second line good enough come playoff time to be able to make a serious run? Because look, like if you're buying, in my opinion, if you're buying or selling stock in the Colorado Avalanche, I think you're buying a lot, because at some point, whether it's this year or not, I don't know. I don't know if they're ready to win, but within the next couple of years, with what they have coming and the maturation process of their young players, they're going to be playing for a Stanley Cup. There is no doubt in my mind, because of how they play, the depth that they have. But do they have enough depth to help out a guy like Nathan MacKinnon on that second line? I don't know if that second line is good enough to help them right now. If that's your third line, you got a hell of a team. But Nathan MacKinnon is obviously a world-class player. And when you put those other two guys with him in Landeskog and Rantanen, I think you, in my opinion, you would put them right up there with the Bergeron, Marchand, Pastrnak line in Boston, because everybody likes to look at who's the top line in the National Hockey League. I would give those guys in Colorado every opportunity to go head to head against that Bergeron line. It's been so good for so long.
And the Oilers guys aren't far behind.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're right there. It's great. It's great debate, really. I mean, but as you guys know, lines don't stay together really anymore. I mean, in these situations here. If you're Jared Bednar in Colorado, do you get to a point, and I suggested this in the broadcast when I did that game a couple of weeks ago in Pittsburgh, is do you get to a point where you go, you know what, maybe it might be best for us to really make a run if you do pull one of those guys off that top line? So obviously it would be either Rantanen or Landeskog, and then who would you bump up there to play with Nathan MacKinnon? So when you have depth like that, it gives you lots of options, but when you do go top heavy, they're going to get their chances. You just can't give those guys any freebies, because if you do, the puck's going to end up in the back of the net.
That's what Kadri helps do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Kadri helps that too.
Leafs could use a Kadri right now, I'll tell you that. There's so many things. Eddie, promise us we'll talk Buffalo next time you're on, because I do want to ask you about that. But you were recently named an ambassador for Hockey Fights Cancer. It's one of the great initiatives in North American sports. We know your story. We know you're a fighter. We love you. What has this meant to you to be asked by the league to be involved so intimately in this way?
Wow. Very honored, very humbling to follow in the footsteps of Nicole Anderson and Lauren Boyle, who were our ambassadors the last couple of years. Obviously, Craig Anderson and Brian Boyle, current players in the National Hockey League. But when the league called and asked, it was an emotional call. I just very thankful that I'm here. I'm very thankful that I have the opportunity for people to know my story and hopefully spread awareness, hopefully raise money. And it is. I think, Sid, I think it's the greatest initiative that the National Hockey League has brought to our fans and, to the game off the ice since 1998. And the commissioner and his staff deserve a lot of credit. Since 1998, I think over $25 million of money raised for research and helping families that are in need, whether it is simple, rides to the hospital or delivering meals to people that are in a battle. I am really touched, and I hope I can carry the torch like those two ladies did the last couple of years. And again, the more people that know about my story, hopefully I can inspire them and either help them get through the day or help them get through their battle and say, hey, if that old hockey player and that broken down horse player can do it, well, I can too. And I'm very proud to have that on my mantle, and I will try to make everybody proud by being the ambassador for Hockey Fights Cancer in the greatest league in the world.
Guess what? You already have, Eddie. You already have. NHL.com/community/Hockey Fights Cancer. You can just put it into Google. The NHL, a great initiative. As Eddie said, you can see the website there.
And Eddie Olczyk, Beating the Odds in Hockey and in Life, is available. If you want an important read through the holidays, if you want to give this to somebody who you think might need it, it's a terrific book. Pick it up, Amazon. The usual spots, you know how to do it. All the literary heads know what they're doing. Eddie, we really appreciate the time, and
always fun.
Our show is always better when you're on it. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it, guys. I look forward to seeing you, and hopefully I can get in studio in mid-January when I finally get up to Toronto for a game between the Leafs and the Hawks. Hopefully I can jump in with you guys.
Done and done.
I can't. Well, when you come up, you'll see how much a fraud we are, and then you won't want to come on.
Hey, you know what?
We look forward to seeing you.
I'll try to bring some Malnati's for you too. All right?
Oh, stop it! Stop it!
Yes.
I am a disciple now. Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Eddie.
I love
brother.
you guys. See ya.
All right, there is Ed Olczyk, NHL analyst from Chicago.